This is Abe Friedtanzer from Awards Radar, and I'm thrilled to be speaking with Asher Grodman about ghosts. How are you, Asher? Of
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
course, of course. Did you ever watch the show 24?
What, yeah, I did. Not like religiously, like many people did in the day, but I did. I did not expect that question. Yes.
Well, the reason I ask is I remember reading that Carlos Bernard, who played Tony, came in the first day of work with like a little soul patch here. And then because the show is in real time, he found out for the entire season he wasn't going to be able to shave it because you wouldn't just go home and shave in the middle of a night, fighting terrorism. So I think you might understand my question now, but do you think that kind of thing would be more preferable than to having the same costume with no pants for the entirety of a show?
That was a very good setup. But by the way, you have that was very, very well thought out.
Thank
Um,
you.
Soul patch or no pants? I think I would take no pants, though I have the winters in Montreal certainly do make me question that. And there are some days you just don't want to take your pants off. So I guess soul patch would be easier. But when you're at home and you watch it later, it's just funnier not having pants on. It's also nice. There's this moment that happens with our amazing crew in Montreal, especially our camera department, where there is a collective. Um, Trust me, life would be easier without this. But there is a collective effort that goes into making sure that our show stays safe for CBS and doesn't turn into HBO, depending on how I'm sitting at any given moment. So, who would miss dealing with that obstacle all the time?
You remember your reaction when you first read about this role and saw that that was part of it?
Um, I think initially I just thought it was funny. And then when I got the role, I didn't think about it. And then when I had to shoot the role, I was suddenly like, oh, this is a thing that's going to happen. And then it was there was a little bit where it was just kind of a relief because I just hadn't done comedy before, and I was like, oh well, my pasty thighs should help with some of the jokes in case I miss a moment or something. Um, but yeah, I think maybe this is just a testament to the how hard it is as an actor. The prospect of having my pants off all the time, I think, didn't even phase me in terms of how thrilled I was to have a job and have it be this job because I thought the script was just. I still think that this is the most brilliant concept for a television show that I've seen in my lifetime.
Were you familiar with the British original at all before this show?
I knew it existed. I stayed far away from it until we finished shooting season one because I knew I knew it was their concept. I knew it was going to work, and I thought if I saw, I think a few of us in the cast were in this boat that we kind of felt if we saw it, we would probably end up on some level copying them, and we needed to kind of make it our own before, and then meet them from a place of where we already had our own process and weren't trying to fill that in with a result that they had already found.
How
But
does it
I think
compare
what they
after
did is
having watched it?
brilliant.
Yeah.
What's that?
How do they compare now that you've watched the original?
I mean, I don't know that I have compared the two necessarily. There are certainly things that they have done that I have gone back to our showrunners and been like, I don't know, that seemed pretty cool. Maybe we could do something like that. But I think it's fun to see, and this is, I think, what it is so clever about the concept is that, first of all, wherever it is, it's going to be a different thing based on the history of that place. And then there's something about the concept that is naturally like tying your hands together because there are certain things that we can't do, like pick up objects and interact with the real world. And so because you have that obstacle, I think kind of every obstacle opens up possibilities in storytelling because you can't go down the easy avenue, so you have to find another way. The way that we've done it, and I think the way that they did it too, or one of the many ways, is by going back in time to move the story forward. So I don't think that that thing that makes our show so unique that I think only our show can do uh, would be such a part of our show if not for the limitations that come with, or I guess the obstacles that come with the concept.
I do enjoy the power of being able to type as slowly as humanly possible. Can you imagine what that would be like? And does that go into your role at all?
you know what it is. As someone who kind of moves very quickly, I'm a New Yorker. I move fast, and I will do things without thinking. It's nice to know that everything Trevor is doing is very thought out and methodical. So the trouble that he is getting up to, he means everything that he is doing, really bad, really intensely.
I know this isn't, a historical drama or anything like that, but I imagine you're probably like 15 to 20 years younger than your character should be based on when he died. Is that right?
Yeah, so what? I guess Trevor would probably be like 50 right now or something like that. So yeah.
How does that do you feel like you have a knowledge of the time that he was supposed to have died, even though you were obviously very young at that point?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I think when you're growing up, you kind of are looking up to, I guess that's the next generation. So the stuff that I thought was cool as a kid is all the stuff that and like I couldn't do, but is all the stuff that Trevor would have been doing, you know? And obviously the reference, I mean, we opened the pilot with a Seinfeld reference, so there's some things that are just were like quintessential. Diddy's White Party was a reference. And I remember being in middle school and everyone talked, and suddenly everyone was doing white parties, So there was a lot of like that generation that kind of shaped my growing up experience. So it's kind of fun to go back now being around the age that Trevor would have been when he died. It's a funny perspective shift. There's certainly some things that I thought were very, very cool that now I'm like, oh, I don't know about that one. But the show, that's what the show does so well is that we have this tendency to like idolize the past, and we really bring bring the past down to size. Uh, it's one of the really joyful things about the show, I think.
But then there's a comedy called Y2K that was at South by Southwest, and it's the same thing where like I'm not really old enough to appreciate all of the jokes, but like I was around then. And so I feel like if someone is 10 years older than me, I think we're about the same age, would be like, all this is exactly what I did. And me, it's like I get half of it because I just being the age that I am.
Yeah, and also like I feel like half of us genuinely thought the world was going to end, or at least computers were going to all shut down. I remember that time, and so seeing the neuroses set by that generation above me, it's fun to kind of be able to send those things up now.
Well, speaking of neuroses, one of the most fun aspects of your character is all the Yiddish that he gets to throw in there, and also hearing some of the other characters who definitely shouldn't know Yiddish saying things because he's obviously said it enough. What is it like just incorporating so much of that into this character?
Well, it's fun for me because I think it's very rare. I mean, I don't know how many Jewish characters I've actually auditioned for in my life, but I can't imagine there's been many. Probably a little more in theater than in film and television. So the odds of me being a Jewish guy who then the role that's now I've played more of Trevor than I have anything else that I get to play a Jewish guy is a lot of fun. And it's also fun that it's not like he's the Jewish ghost. He's a lot of things. One of them is Jewish. And I think the fun thing about the Yiddish thing is that it's so in his lane, but the fact that it kind of spreads the other characters speaks to that kind of like um forever roommates where there are no boundaries, we're all just stuck together, things are spreading dynamic that happens. It's the same thing with like television, and now we're all like, all the ghosts are watching, or season two, I feel like we were all trying like practice, like playing with dating each other because that's what like Sam and Jay playing those like mom and dad roles is doing. So there's something very like spongy about the ghosts. Um, but yeah, it's fun for me. It's especially fun for my parents to see me making, throwing some Yiddish and some Hebrew up there. And yeah, I think there's just something very homey about it to me.
Any favorite expressions or words that you've gotten to use that you would not have imagined
What's
having the
that?
chance to do? Any favorite expressions or words that you've gotten to use?
Oh man. Uh, I know I'm gonna say one and then another one's gonna hit me like 5 minutes later. I think I got Mishpacha in there one time. Although I'm not even sure that made a cut, but I really liked that one. Uh, God, I'm trying to remember all the stuff that I've done. Um, what there's one in the pilot. There's a Punim line that I really loved, and now I can't even. I think it must be in reference to Sam. I think that was maybe my favorite.
Any
Look at
piece
that
of his
Punim or something.
any piece of his Jewish backstory that you'd love to see in a future flashback?
I mean, who wouldn't want to see the Mel Gibson theme bar mitzvah? I mean, come on. That'd be a blast. And we're gonna get some flashbacks in the next episode because Trevor's brother is coming to the house. So you got something to look forward to. A little peek behind the curtain there of Trevor.
Exciting. Do you feel like there's another character that if you weren't playing Trevor, that you would enjoy either just portraying that or being from that era?
Of the existing ghosts. Ooh. I mean, I think there'd be something fun in Isaac's era. I think it would be a lot of fun. Uh, and as someone who's just interested in history, I think there's something about that role and being able to, with tongue in cheek and in a very lighthearted way, just subvert every American ideal that I think is a lot of fun. So maybe something in that world.
With the cast this big, there is a surprising amount of interaction between everybody. But is there somebody that you feel like you just haven't worked with enough from the cast that you'd love
Oh,
to be
okay.
paired with at some point?
I was gonna say everyone asked the question of like, who would you most like to work with? And I'm like, what you guys you try to ruin this cast dynamic, making us pick favorites. What the hell?
Better than who would you
No.
hate to work with? You know,
Who would I hate to
that
work with? Yeah, thank you
that
for
wouldn't
not
be
asking. There's no one that I would hate to work with. Um, I mean, honestly, the fun thing about it is that there aren't many people for us to interact with. So, um, the the relationship with each of the ghosts is very specific because they've had time to kind of like grow these dynamics. I haven't done a ton with Flower, and I would love to do more with Sheila because I just think she's brilliant. Um, yeah, would love to do more with Flower. I think she's probably the one I've worked with the least.
I've had the chance to speak to a number of your castmates, and I always like to ask them about what it's like to reshoot scenes where Jay is not supposed to know what's happening. What is that whole thing like?
Mm. The ghostless past, or as we would say, because we shoot in Montreal, is the sans fantôme in French. Um, it's fun. So, we go and we do a scene, and then once we've got it, we all leave and we do that password there. It suddenly feels very, very empty and very obvious that all of these people in these crazy costumes are not there. So we're kind of in another room yelling our lines. And this is where, what Ukarsh is doing, which is so brilliant and very hard, is to be in that scene with 9, 10 of us or 8 of us there, sometimes 9 or 10 of us there, and somehow ignore us. Like even Thor yelling in his face, he rarely has a reaction. He's so good at kind of staying in that lane, which is hard to do because you have to be very responsive to, let's say, 10% of what's happening around you and not responsive at all to the rest. But then when we step out, that's when Rose, you really see just how good Rose is because she has every single one of us placed and is doing these full scenes, these full like 3-page scenes with 10 characters, and she's doing them alone. And it's miraculous to watch.
You mentioned that this is your, biggest and longest role so far. If people are curious to see more of you, where should they start?
Oh God. Mm, uh, the social media stuff is obviously a good thing. I will tell you the thing that something that I did last off season that's probably like as silly as this is, one of my proudest things is I wrote and directed the Jacksonville Jaguars schedule release video, which if you're not a sports fan sounds a very niche thing, but it was basically like mockumentary about how the NFL is all scripted and that all these athletes are really just actors. And it's a very it's kind of like my sense of humor in a nutshell, and it was just a blast to make. So if you're looking for something very niche, you can look at that. And then if it's not that, it's mostly been like dramas, to be honest, as far from Trevor as you could possibly imagine.
You have anything else coming up in the next off season?
Well, is this off season right now? Yeah, well, actually, I guess there's nothing. I guess there's nothing I can say right now. I'm not allowed to say anything right now.
Well, we can close with a different
You
question.
can you can check back with my PR team and see if exactly where that. I think right now I can't say anything.
Is there anything that you'd like to try in the future that you haven't had a chance to do yet professionally?
I mean, there's a lot that I would like to try. It'd be fun doing another show. Just a little, another arc on something else. Get back to drama a little bit. It'd be great to do some theater. I'm a New York guy, so theater is like the pinnacle for me. But yeah, you're getting into the world of another show would be so much fun. In the off seasons. And yeah, I guess in theater would be my probably top of the list for me.
Well, I look forward to getting to know more of Trevor, and I wish you good luck with everything in the future.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me, man.